Welcome back to Fan Court. We're back for another round of debates and heated discussion over some more topics. We got Street Fighter today. My name is Sam, and joining me again, my good friend Ken. Ken, how we holding up?
Pretty good. I've got my Simply cocktail. I'm ready to go.
Well, we're doing Street Fighter characters today because Street Fighter 6 is coming out later this year. Myself, I would call myself a Street Fighter novice. You know, I've got some of the basics, I got some of the characters, but I'm not the most in depth. Ken, what about you?
I am a Street Fighter master.
Well, since you let me take the reins on the Mario one last week, I think you're gonna be taking the reins on this one too. For this one here. But let's start with the cover man himself, Ryu. I think the aficionado over there must start us off here.
All right. Ryu, classic character. He is the OG of the series. He's the number one, numero uno, very first guy. If we're ranking him, he's instant S class, just right off the top, just in power, skills, just notoriety, everything. If you watched our Mario video, we basically looked at their impact on the series. But with Street Fighter and these characters, I'm going to also look at their playability as well. And just overall, his character is just it's iconic. I mean, you can't really beat him. He's Ryu.
He is Ryu, and I gotta say, like he was an inspiration. First of all, like we'll talk about his notoriety. Like back when this game in Mortal Kombat came out, you were either ripping off heads or you're shooting Hadokens at people. So you gotta give credit to where credit is due for Ryu. Like he made it to Smash Bros. That's how you know he's an icon.
Yep.
Whenever I'd play any Street Fighter version, he was the go-to because he's the easiest to start learning from, and like that's how I always learned how to play the game was Ryu. So you can't beat that. So I agree with you on that S tier.
The cool thing about his character is like the skill set, like his list of skills, are button mashable. Okay, so if you've ever played a
Yeah.
button masher on any game, his character, along with Ken and a couple others we'll get into, you can literally button mash and fire off like Shoryukens and Hadoukens and all kinds of stuff just from just mashing your controller over and over and over again. In fact, every character that did that, that would pick him and button mash, that made me pick other characters for that sole reason. So I do love his character. I've completed the game multiple times with his character. Every single time I always complete the game with his character first. But button mashing is the reason why I've chosen other characters and gotten a liking for other characters
Yeah,
because
I
his
get that.
skill set's too easy.
That's what, like I said though. But that's kind of also why I like him because for me personally, that's how I got started, and then it made me want to go and learn different characters and like really kind of get into it.
Yeah, and it also helps that his skill set's expanded over the last couple of years,
Oh
well,
yeah.
decades, right? 2 decades, I guess. I have no clue, but at this point, he's an icon. So
Well, I have Captain Google up here to answer any questions we might have during the episode.
well, there you go.
So he first came out in 1987.
The year after I was born.
So he's got years of experience going on, and I love him. I think he's a great. I think S tier is a perfect rating for him.
Anything less would be sacrilege to the brand. So
Yeah, I could agree with that. Let's move over to his counterpart, Goldilocks over there, Ken. What do you think of Ken? How do you rate Ken?
Ken is also S class, and in fact, I would actually rank him higher than Ryu in my book. Not because we share the same name, but because he actually is a genuinely better character in my opinion. Um, for those of you guys that are somewhat younger than me, I don't think I'm that old. If you remember the very first couple of games, Ken and Ryu were basically like how all two-player games were, or multiplayer games. They were basically copies of each other. You just take the pixels and you flip them, and you have a second character, right? And that was Ken and Ryu for a long time. But I think around Super Street Fighter 2, I can't remember, one of those iterations, they started moving Ken into his own character, which, in my opinion, instantly changed the game forever. Like that was it when I realized that was slightly faster, jumped slightly higher, maybe just a little bit weaker, or his fireball's a different color. I was like, oh my god, I'm Ken forever. plus he's freaking American, which is I'm American too. I'm like, I'm good with this guy. Ken was my guy. He was my road dog forever. He was when I first realized that they can take these characters and even if they have the same blueprint, they can morph it into something different and morph him into his own character, which for me, he left a special place in my heart. Ken is always my OG.
Can't deny that. For me, so I'm looking up. Yeah, he was. So his first real iteration was Street Fighter 2. You were correct on that. For me personally, I also agree with S tier. I think he's also just a little stronger too with his fire, punches that he does, which also give him a little more personality in my book.
Sure, you can.
And I do love that they made him an Echo Fighter, kind of reminiscent of what he was when in the first Street Fighter, considering that he was just a pixel swap.
Yep.
So I love that. They were a great duo in. Yeah, people are gonna hate me, but I said, Street Fighter Cross Tekken was a great game, and they were a great duo in that game. You can hate me all you want for that one, but I thought that was a fun game personally.
I mean, the dude's got a wife. I mean, come on.
You can't beat that.
He's got a wife. If you want to talk about the culture about this guy as well, like if you guys watched any of the movies, like his character in the movies is more interesting than Ryu. So if I could put him higher than S class, I would. I'm not going to do that right now in this list. I'm going to keep him as S with his buddy. They're besties for the resties. But his character, even if you don't like him as like a shadow copy of Ryu, like he has more depth as a character in the genre, in my opinion. So he's my true number one.
Yeah. So if we get to that point, remember we will add our own listings as well in there.
Well, starting with these two guys, I think if we keep them as S, we'll probably rank down.
Oh, we're definitely going down from here. I mean, all right, our next character here, Chun-Li. Like I said, you're the aficionado, so I'm gonna let you take first crack here, and we'll discuss from there.
Oh my God, I can go on and on about thick thighs herself, man. Listen, Chun-Li, she's S all the way. She is another S character. She is. I mean, you guys can debate me all day on this, but like one of the things I never understood is like people, like especially now in the last couple of years, there are people like talking about a lack of female characters and looking for like strong female leads and everything else. And I keep thinking to myself, there's a ton of female characters out there. Like we don't need like female versions of other characters. We need to highlight the true OGs of the game. Chun-Li's one of them. She's a boss bitch if you ever saw one. I mean, that her character, one, she's one of the first characters outside of the core group that has a different set of controls, right? Where you do the back forward motion instead of the swooping motion. And two, she was hella powerful. Three, she's got button mash ability. If you just keep on tapping B over and over and over and over and over again, I mean, you're whipping out these fire kicks left and right. Like she, as a character, after Ken, Chun-Li was my next go-to. She was just a fire character all the way around. And again, looking at that genre, she was like a super hardcore female character way back when, before it was even cool to have female characters. And I'm like, that, for me, solidified it. I mean, how many people sit there and just dream of Miss Thick Thighs herself? I mean, golly, I can go on and on, but that's S-Class, dude. S-Class, all day. All day.
I don't think I have the fondest memories of Chun-Li because I remember I struggled a little bit when playing as her, but I will agree with the S ranking because of, what you said earlier, like she's a badass female in gaming, and and I think our next character, for the same reason, might be joining. But in terms of Chun-Li, like she is a badass. Like the one thing that would ruin it for me is the movie, because that was a really bad movie. But I'm not gonna hold that against her. That's not her fault. That's the director.
Wait. Which movie?
What was that? It was one of the newer ones, like the Revenge of Chun-Li or something like that.
Gotcha. You might be referring to live action movies.
Yeah, that's a live action movie.
I do not respect any live action movies.
All right, yeah. Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li in 2009 was not a great movie. I personally think they did her character a disservice in that movie.
They did.
When I do reference the movies, I will be talking about live actions, because that's kind of the ones I've seen. I haven't gotten around to the anime ones, but I can't hold that one against her. That's more of a director's fault on that one. But I think she's a badass female. Like, she does have the button mash ability. I never got I wanted to master the character, but I just couldn't do it myself. Street Fighter definitely is something I'd say is a little complicated for me, but it doesn't hurt like my feelings towards Street Fighter. I still love the game. It's a fun game, but Chun Li is definitely an S. I can absolutely agree with you all the way on that.
Yeah, I mean, with as far as live action movies go, like I like Kristen Crew, Crux Crew, whatever her name is. Superman. I like Superman. Superman's main chick. That's what I know her from. I don't know her from anything else besides being Superman Squeeze from Smallville. But yeah, I don't respect any of the live action movies. The anime movies, though, the ones straight from Japan, she was a badass. I mean, listen. If you get a chance, Sam, listen, go on YouTube, look up Chun Li versus Vega, and I guarantee you will not be disappointed.
I will
Ah,
be doing that later.
primo fight scene, absolutely amazing. Another reason why she's S class. Like even when you put her in that damsel in distress mode, like they strip her like half naked in the movie. She gets out the shower. It's like, oh man, she's looking just fine as a flower, man. She gets out with a towel, and then Vega's sitting there looking like all menacing and everything with the blades. Dude, it just it can go on and on. Just freaking amazing. Look it up. Look it up.
I
S class.
I will
S.
take a look. Next female badass, Cammy. I kind of hinted at it earlier, but I think she's an S. But Ken, where do you think she's going?
Ah, this might be our first little slight disagreement. I
Hmm.
would rank Cammy an A class.
An A.
An A class.
Well, why you think an A?
Well, as a character overall, she's not bad. As a fighter overall, she's very strong, and even her skill set in the game it's very wide. I mean, she does that little slidey kick thing. She can grab you. She can roll. She's kind of like a Vega without the claws type deal. She's very agile. Her strength level has been, through the roof, nuked, tanked. It's gone up and down depending on which iteration of Street Fighter you look at. But as a playable character, I feel like they've diluted her over the years by adding other female characters in. And going back to the whole Chun Li thing, I feel like you know when you have a character that's as strong as her, and she's a great character, we don't need like knockoff characters, other characters, random characters. Focus on building core characters up and make them into something great. I feel like they could have really done that with Cammy, and they started to, but I think that they've given her playability to other characters in recent years, and it's kind of diluted her character, in my opinion. So I'm A class. I don't think she has the historical significance that Chun Li did. So that's my feelings on Cammy. I feel like A class is where she kind of fits at.
A class. Well, one of the things I will mention though, like you mentioned all the clone characters, but I feel like none of them have dethroned her yet. Because when I think Street Fighter, like the first four characters are Ryu, Ken, Chun Li, and Cammy. I don't really think of much else when, like, if you're really thinking of the surface there, like I feel like that's like kind of your top four.
Hmm.
You still see people like dress up as her. They still, admire her. So I don't know if those clone characters have taken over her spot in my eyes. When it comes to the playability, I will definitely defer to what you're saying because, like I said, you're definitely gonna know more about that kind of her playability on that. So I will, if you were going based on playability, I will definitely say A still. But I think her significance does boost her up to that S still for me.
Well, so again, I'm not really refuting, her status in the game at all. Like even she's been around since like she's one of the OG characters, right? Like maybe not from the first Street Fighter, but she's one of the OG characters, and I do appreciate that. And don't get me wrong, Miss Thick Legs herself still holds number one in my book. But Cammy, she's pretty hot herself. I can't really be mad at that. But I'm looking at everything as a whole, and the reason why I would say A class instead of S class isn't so much of her, it's not a detriment to her character at all. It's that her historical significance doesn't quite match Ken Ryu and Chun Li in my book.
I can agree with that because again, like when you say Street Fighter, she's definitely the last on the list out of the big four. So I can easily agree that like she's not as notoriety. I just think like they tried to the way I see it is they tried to knock her down a peg and she just keeps climbing, and I don't get how they keep trying to do that.
I mean, listen, A is still great.
Oh, it
A is
absolutely
still a
is.
very great, respectable ranking. And honestly, we're going to end up knocking this tier list way down with some of these characters because they're just not quite hitting. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Oh, absolutely. So let's move on to our next character, Guile.
Oh, my guy with the white fro. So Guile, I struggle with this guy a lot. So when I was younger playing with my little brother, his name was Kyle.
His name was Kyle.
Kyle. And he always picked Guile because I would always be Ken, and the only character that had a name that was like his was Guile. So he would always play as Guile. I would always play as Ken. For a while, I was actually really great at it because, again, Ken, Ryu, some of the easiest characters to jump into. You know, as a kid, I started out like everyone else, button mashing a little bit. Then I realized how to play the game for real. Then I realized what the different button mapping meant and all those different things, and I became excellent at it. But my brother had to be Guile because that was the next character he wanted to be. He didn't want to match me. He wanted to pick his own character. The problem with that is he was forced to learn how to play the character.
Yep,
So he actually learned how to play Street Fighter faster than I did because he picked a harder character to learn, right?
absolutely.
So the up down motion, back to forth was a back forth motion where you have to kind of move back, swing forward to do a boomerang,
Yep.
down up to hit a flash kick. All those different things, those different movements caused him to be a better player. He actually was a better player than me from the jump, even though I was playing a little bit longer. And that's a good testament to how strong a character Guile is. So if you throw in that extra skill set on top of his power rankings, he's a super strong character that deserves some super clout. I would give him an S.
You would give him an S.
I would give him an S.
Now, I have a personal hatred for Guile. I wouldn't put him like low. He's a great he's still a character. He's a good character. I can't knock him down. But I have a bad experience with him because I've always dealt with the people who spam the Sonic Boom move of his when I used to play the game.
Ah.
And you see, that's where I'm like, you know what? I can't do this. He is a B for me, unfortunately.
What?
Yes, I'm dropping him down just because,
Wow.
well, his personality is America. Second is the spamming, and I'm like, I can't do that. That's too much.
Oh, wow.
He's got to be more well-rounded for me for that. And like, you know what? The fro, he's killing it with the fro, and that definitely gives him bonus points for me. But I'm sorry, but my lowest I will go is a B. But that's also kind of what I'm feeling at the moment.
Have you heard his theme song?
I've heard his theme song actually, and that's
No,
kind of
no.
also saving it.
Play the theme song.
We're gonna get
Play the theme
copyrighted.
song.
We can't do that.
That's
That's okay. We can sing it. We can't play it due to copyright rules.
His theme song alone is epic.
If we're basing it off of theme songs, S, because that theme song was killer.
But you know what's funny? Honestly, from my point of view, you know, if you throw in that character significance as well, I mean, I would argue A.
You would, yeah. All
I
right.
still feel like he's an S class character, but I would argue A, you know, because people did spam him a lot.
That's the part that kills him for me. That was his significance, and like they make jokes about it of him just being the spammer, and I'm like, all right, well that's gonna kill him for me. Theme song, S tier, no doubt. If it was just the theme song, I'll give you the A tier for him, just because again he is also a significant character in the Street Fighter world.
And you know what's funny? I'm comfortable with A because, you know, cool. I do feel like Ken, Ryu, and Chun Li are better characters than him, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with A. But that also, with the whole spamming thing, brings us neatly into our next character.
M. Bison. I'm gonna let you, like I said, you're taking the leads on these. You are the aficionado.
Listen, this guy right here. First off, Balrog. He takes spamming to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I can
Seeing
agree
somebody
with that.
slide all the way to the back of the screen, which puts you in an instant block mode, and then slide kicking you first chance they get, or flashing across the screen in a little spiral thingamajig. That nightmare inducing. The amount of frustration dealing with people that would do that, just sit in the back of the screen all day and just slide kick you or flash across the screen. He is the definition of spam, but he does it in a great way. He is the perfect villain. You get mad at him. You're mad at him on purpose. You're mad at any character that plays as his character. You automatically S class for that reason.
So I actually, you know what? I even with the spamming, I got to agree with you because that's the thing. He's the villain. You're supposed to feel that way towards him, and when you could do that with your villain, that makes him instantly like recognizable for me. And so I honestly like I 100% can agree with that S ranking because you want to feel that anger towards him. Like you are trying to go towards somebody you hate, and it's just
Yep.
it is like that. You want the character to be spamming like that. So I will absolutely join you in the S tier. I will not put him above Ken, Ryu, and Chun Li, but he will be in that S tier for me.
You know what's funny though? Like honestly, in terms of video games, I we had this discussion with Bowser about his how you felt about him as a final boss character, right?
Yeah.
And this, oh, listen. Playing the game, I have always felt like he is a great boss, no matter what. No matter the iteration where he was the final character, he was a great boss. Just the way he looks, his moves, just everything about him is like this guy is just OG. He's badass, and I love him as a character. Yeah, I don't know, for those of you guys in other parts of the world where he's Vega, that's for me, he is a primo villain. I thoroughly enjoy him as a villain. The one thing I never could figure out is like whose villain is he? Is he Ken's villain, Ryu's villain, Guile's villain? Who knows? The storylines change so much, but whatever.
Yeah.
But as a villain, he's primo in my book.
He's just the villain to the game, I feel like, because like we'll talk about when we get to those characters, but I feel like they also have like a lot of like character specific villains sometimes too.
Which is true. Which is true. But as far as like a game specific one, he's primo.
He is. This character for me, this next one, this was the first character I tried to learn, Dhalsim. So for me, he's definitely like kind of up there for me. I don't think he has big of an impact as everybody. He just has more of like a personal effect for me. So like the highest I think I'm willing to go for him would be an A personally. He was a tough character to try to learn. I think that was a bad mistake to try to learn him, but I will stand by that decision though because I thought he was so cool when I saw him.
I love Dalsim. He's another great character. He's again one of those characters where the skill set is just beyond the typical button mapping and how you would typically control the game. It requires a certain level of thought and patience. So I feel you on that for sure. Um, I feel A class. He's definitely a good A class character in my
Yeah,
book.
like unfortunately, like I feel like they didn't do much with him, so that's like the highest I'm willing to go for him. But like he definitely has like that person, like that's that personal touch for me, and like yeah, he was, when a little kid trying to learn how to play Dhalsim was probably not the best idea.
Definitely not. But at the same time, if you look at him as a character, I mean, just every appearance that he's had in the game, you get more and more of his backstory. So originally, you kind of you're introduced to these characters and you kind of see them as playable characters. You see their their levels, you see the backdrop, you see their skill set, you see their character design, all that fun stuff, and you try to understand who they are as a character. And with him, I feel like they've gone in different directions that they could have fleshed him out a little bit better. Then they've kind of taken him back where maybe they don't really care about him as a character too much. But that back and forth and not ever really fleshing him out the way that I think that they could have, brings him down for me in my book, but puts him neatly in that A class
Yeah,
tier.
I'm with it. Let's go to our wrestler here, Zangief.
Uh, Good old Mother Russia, Zangief. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I never really liked him as a character, to be honest with you. You know, he was a power character for sure, and he's one of those characters you can kind of just walk slow and kind of just spam a little spinny arm drop on him. He was a fun character, but in my book, he's a B.
Yeah, no, I never had a good experience with Zangief. He would always beat my ass when I played. So like honestly, the lower you went, the fine he went. But I will say B I think is appropriate because he made it to all like the Marvel vs. Capcoms, like Street
Yep.
Fighter Cross Tekken's. Like he clearly has that space to be up there. But I am very mad at him for all the times he's beaten my ass.
But again, it just goes back to like the different character styles, like playing styles,
It is.
and people that pick him have that slow and steady wins the race playing style. But also, he's a superpower character, right? So he's not taking a lot of damage, but he's dealing a lot of damage. And if you do get hit, it's like it's knocking your health bar a good 1/4%. So, he's an annoying character to play. He's annoying. I can give you that. I
He
can
is
give you.
annoying, so that's why I can't. I just can't sometimes. Let's move on. You said we talked about him earlier. Let's talk about Vega, the man with the mask and a claw.
I absolutely love this guy. You might disagree with me on this, but I feel like he's in S class.
I wasn't gonna say S. I was gonna say A because he's really cool. Personally, like I said, you're the aficionado, so I'll let you kind of get it. You have definitely a little more like kind of understanding of him, but I feel like I don't really see much of Vega, outside of everything.
You don't, and that's my biggest problem with him. Which would, if I had to mark him down, it'd be because they're not really utilizing his character the way that I would like him to. But just going back to just the history of his character. First off, again, talking about characters that have other moves and other skill sets where they have that different, back, forth, up, down, the jump. His arsenal of attacks was so wide, even from the very beginning, that for me, it just made him one of the most interesting characters to play as. Him and I feel like Cammy had a very, very interesting skill set as far as like their playability, and throw in the addition of his ability to climb the fence in the early games. I mean, it was next level. That again, that's something where it's like how many characters can interact with their environments like that, right? And he was one of them for sure. So for me, it's like you get add in that his character could lose his mask, could
Yeah,
lose his claws. He could also climb the fence. He could roll. He could jump. He could freaking float in midair. He could attack you from the ground and from the air. He was so freaking versatile as a character that it just made him a joy to play as. Like after I would say Ryu, then Ken, Chun Li, Vega would be my next pick right after that.
you would put him right in front of M Bison.
I would put him in front of M Bison. Not in terms of like like who's better, but as my preference of character to play as, I enjoy playing with Vega.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm giving you. I feel like just in this world right now, like I'm gonna definitely like I might fight you on a few things, but I feel like like I think personally he's an A just because of just the way they use him. But like you mentioned, you brought up like the good point of like his fighting style is very cool and unique. So I will give you that S tier for him.
And then come on, of all the people out there, I mean he leans into his character style. Like you got this pretty boy guy that comes in and just freaking owns everybody. And if you've played any of the games where he has like his upgraded attacks, like they're flashy, they're over the top, they deal a lot of damage. I freaking love playing as Vega.
All right, let's see. Let's move on to Balrog.
All right, my guy, the boxer from Vegas. Oh, love this guy. So, for those of you guys that don't know, they swapped some names around because M. Bison is too similar to M. Tyson, who was the original owner of this name. They swapped it for the American markets. So, this guy is now Balrog. But I don't know. I never really liked him as a character, to be honest with you.
After all that hype, I don't like him.
I don't. I don't like him. And the only reason I don't like him is because so he kind of mimics some other characters from other games we'll talk about in a different video. But with him being another power character like Zangief and a couple other people, they could have done so much more and then they didn't. He's a great character to play as. He's a great character to kind of just jump in if you want to mix up a little bit. But I don't like him as a character at all. He has no depth.
So where are you putting him?
I put him with B.
Alrighty, I could give B. Honestly, so I was gonna say C, and the only reason why is because the only reason I remembered he was a character was because I looked at the list. I would not have thought of him.
Oh wow! See, he's getting a B because he is an OG character, and if you had to list the top 10 characters, he's in the top 10.
Like I didn't even think of Balrog when we were talking about this. So like I that's why like I don't personally see him as high just because
Mhm.
I for me I rank their notoriety basically. Like how well are they known, to kind of like a common man. And I'm like,
Right.
I don't, I didn't even remember him. So like, I know of him, so that's why he gets a little higher, but I didn't remember him.
And see that again, going back to just the lore of the game and all those different things, they haven't fleshed out the characters enough to, you know, be significant, right? Like he's just stereotypical. He's a boxer. He shows up. He's like a henchman sometimes. Sometimes he's just like a womanizer. Just as a character, they don't really do much, right? They don't do much
Yeah.
at all. And I get it. They kind of just made him as kind of like again Mike Tyson. Like if you think, oh, matter of fact, if you want to say, oh, that's M Bison, I would have zero issue with that. I'm like, oh, like Mike Tyson, zero issue. And if you think of like Mike Tyson from like the early '90s, I'm like, that fits. That fits.
Yeah. It does. It does. And it would have been a cool thing to do, but he also was in Punch Out too, so
Yeah, that's true. So I
um
mean, B class in my book.
B class. I can agree with that. Ryu's rival. This one I remember kind of being like his personal villain, Sagat. I don't know how you want to pronounce that.
I've always called him Sagat.
Sagat. All right, so Sagat. What? I remember trying to learn him next after Dalsim,
Hmm.
and I thought he wasn't too bad. Character wise, I thought he was bland, and personally, for me, that would give him an A tier for me.
So I would agree. In the early iterations, he was very bland. He was just kind of like another. This is going to sound bad. I don't know what the early, you know, Capcom people were thinking with some of these characters. I feel like they just said, we're going to go around the world and pick people that are just from every country. We've got Americans, we've got Japanese, we've got Brazilians and Indians and, all kinds of people. And I feel like they just kind of very stereotypically just placed different personalities on these characters. And that's what stuck initially. And then I feel like as they fleshed the game out, they had to flesh out backstories that matched the characters that they gave him. So I feel like he was one of them. Now, that changed for me when they started fleshing out his backstory and kind of giving him and Ryu a bit more of a, you know, rivalry type deal going on, and about how his scar came about, and different fighting style and all these different things. I feel like that gave him more substance. But as far as his playability goes, he's always been a super strong fighter. If I couldn't win with any of my other characters, I always won with Sagat. He was a great character to use, great character to fight with, very strong character, very great controls, good arsenal of techniques. He was super strong in my book. And as far as like his later iterations, I feel like they did him justice a little bit. They still could do a bit more, but I feel like they've done him justice over the last iterations of Street Fighter and through some of the lore. I would give him an A class.
Yeah, like I said, I agree with that A class. I hope in Street Fighter 6 they flesh him out a little more, but we'll see what they do.
Hopefully they don't nuke his character.
Hopefully. Blanca time. I remember Blanca. He's Pikachu. He's basically Pikachu.
He's a Pikachu on steroids.
Yes.
So I'm gonna ask you because he's another iconic character. What would you rank him as?
I would still also give him an A. I don't think he's up there for me. He, like I said, when I'm describing him as a steroid Pikachu, that kind of tells you something. He, I don't know if they really gave him a story, because most I got out of him was he's just a feral man creature that has electric abilities, and I didn't really understand that personally. I still think he's a cool character. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to disrespect him. He's an A tier all the way for me, but I don't think I could go any higher than that personally.
Yeah, I mean, I would say A class as well. I mean, I will say this. So after that initial movie, the live action one with Jean Claude and the other cast of kooky characters that I don't know who they were,
Yeah.
I actually had super high hopes for his character because one of my biggest problems with Blanca is that I didn't know who he was. Right? Part of that whole connection to a character is like, what's their backstory? What do they do? Where are they from? What drives them? Why are they in the game? Different things like that. So after that movie, I was like, oh snap, he's secretly Guile's buddy and experimented on him and turned him into a weird electric guy. And only to find out that that's nowhere near canon
That
at all.
would have
And
been badass.
exactly, that would have been freaking amazing. But No, that's not it at all. Like he's just a wild beast man that's just out there doing things and just, it is what it is. So because of that, he's a yeah, he's a B. Well, he could be A class. He
I
could be
think
A class.
he's low A. I'll give him low A, but like I don't know, there's not much to him. So talking about something that's not really much to it. E Honda. Personally, I know nothing about him. He just fights in a bathhouse, and I don't feel particularly comfortable with that. So I don't know. I personally would give him a C. Like he doesn't really have a theme song personally from that I think will save him in my mind. I don't know. I'd rather get a car than this sumo wrestler.
Yeah, no, I'm with I'm tempted to give him a C class, but because there are way worse characters on this list that we have to go through, I'm gonna upgrade him to B class
All
only
right.
because it's part of that core list of original characters.
Just because there's worse characters to come, I will agree.
Exactly. There are worse characters to come. Now, I will do my guy some justice. I do feel like of the original OG characters, you had button mashing Chun Li with her kicks. You had to have button mashing E Honda with his punches or
It was his
fists,
like
however you want to
his
call it.
palms that went out.
The palm, yeah, the.
Yeah, no, I know. I was thinking about that. And I was like, I don't know. I can't wrap my head around him as a character. Like B is,
And then he slides across the screen as he's doing it too. It's like, ah.
I'll give him a B, but that's literally just because of like it's really just kind of more of like there's other worse characters out there.
I mean, he's not a bad character. Like, if I have to do him some justice, he's not terrible. Street Fighter 2 has been around. He's one of the OGs. He
Yeah,
kind of, and he brought that different layer of playability. He could fly across the screen like Bison. He could fast punch slash whatever you want to call it, like Chun Li. So it's like he had some stuff. He could whip you with his towel in some iterations. He could throw a fireball in some iterations. So it's like, yeah, he's pretty well rounded.
all right, we could definitely do
Personality
that.
just sucks.
Yeah. Speaking of personality, Akuma.
Oh, I think we can go on and on about this guy,
We
but
don't
I'm
have
not.
all day, so I will say let's. I want to keep my notes brief. He's S. He is S for me.
He's definitely an S. His character lore alone and his better arsenal of weaponry than Ken Ryu in my book just gives him that great. Yeah, S.
I feel like we could have a podcast talking about him. So I'm just gonna try to keep his notes brief, just because of how fucking badass he is. Like
Yep.
he made his way to Tekken to go beat up everyone over there, and I was like, that's so fucking badass.
Yep. And again, going back to that lore, he's got the lore in spades. I just love characters that have a background, they have a story, they have lore. I love it. So yeah.
All right, so now this is where I'm like I don't want to do this one anymore. DJ, he's one of those characters again. Like I forgot he was a character until we looked at the list.
Yeah, no, he again, when it comes to these type of games, you look at the lore, he's been in some games, he's been taken out of some games, he's not been in every iteration, he is a Super Street Fighter 2 character, so he is technically one of those almost OG characters, but
He's
I feel like
he's almost, but that doesn't save him from my wrath. And I'm gonna say he's a C.
I would agree with you. He is definitely a C class character in my book.
Yeah, I got nothing else to say about him.
And
He's
I will say this, of the clone characters to follow, where they had similar styles and skill sets, some of his clones are better, and
yeah, I
that's
remember one of his clones. I don't know what his name was. I've been looking around, but don't remember who he was.
well, I think they're on this list, so we might get
We
to
will
talk about that person in the near future.
we'll get there. Fei Long. Honestly, he's a D for me, considering that I never liked him as a character. He kind of feels like just another Bruce Lee ripoff, and they didn't really do him well for me.
He is a Bruce Lee ripoff, and honestly, I hate every single Bruce Lee ripoff except this one.
Except this one.
I actually like him as a character, so I don't give him D class chops. I do bump him up to. I like him better than DJ, but he's not quite in that realm. So
I can
I will
put him
put
in
him as
front
a
of
C
DJ, but
class.
I ain't going any higher. I'm sorry, but he's got nothing going for me.
I mean, as a character, he's good. he's got a wide range of abilities. Like, honestly, I would put him B class. But I also know the whole lore just it's not there. But you know what? No, I take that back. He's a B class character in my book because he is one of the OG Bruce Lee knockoff characters. And I feel like of all the knockoff characters or spoof characters that are in this game, I feel like DJ is a great, not DJ.
Fei Long.
Fei Long is a good one. Sorry, my small human is in the background.
That's not a problem. All right, look, I'll give you that, but he's not going any higher. I'm sorry, but like I cannot get around that.
Nope, I'm good with that.
T-Hawk. T-Hawk.
Consumer Capcom just hurts my feelings so much. Uh, honestly, I. So here's the thing. I actually did like him as a character. He brought a different set of playing style. He brought some nuance, but he's just too cliche in my book. He's right there with DJ. I rank him a C.
I can give you that because now here's where a huge bias of mine is about to come in. My favorite fighting game is Mortal Kombat. I don't know who came out first, but he reminds me so much of Nightwolf, and I love Nightwolf as a character so much.
Oh,
Like, he's so cool, Nightwolf, over Mortal Kombat, and like I don't really know much about T-Hawk, and as you mentioned, like he feels more of a cliche than a fleshed out character.
yeah. That and for me, I get it. Street Fighter, it's a world fighting tournament and all that fun stuff. So they want to go around the world and just get different people. But like, come on, man. I mean, 80s, 90s, you know, I, it just hurts my feelings.
Alrighty,
It hurts my feelings.
yeah. I'm thinking for these next two, like I don't know. So I would love to hear your input on this, but for Violent Ken and Evil Ryu, personally, I never liked those. I didn't like those ideas.
So I did like those ideas. I didn't like the way they were implemented. So if you look at Akuma, you look at his arsenal of attacks and everything else like that, and their skill set, it's like because they're all three basically clones of each other, their basic set of skills are basically identical.
Yeah.
All these characters did was kind of just amp up their core characters with like slight Akuma style, and I was okay with that. I was okay with that. The only thing I didn't like was the whole play they did with how they get their powers. But Ken didn't get that. He's just violent.
Yeah, he's just Violent Ken, and that's the thing. Like yeah, they're trying to match Akuma, but that kind of kills it for me. That you're taking your two iconic characters and you have to change them to match a badass, and I'm like, I don't like that. Like, I think if you just kind of gave original Ryu and Ken like a power up, like in Dragon Ball or something, I think that would have worked beautifully. But they came out with these, and I don't know, just I don't like them. They don't really do it for me.
Yep. So if you think back to when they first appeared, it's like, so when these characters are introduced, it's kind of like their skill set is enhanced because of some source, right? Whether it's like psycho power or like the evil spirit or whatever you want to call it, the shadow force stuff, whatever you want to call it. It's like, I feel like in a game where they're the good guys, they should be able to attain a higher level of power through their own skill set, not through this. And they were more powerful because of this versus them just being different.
Well, they also, they do train a lot too. So why couldn't they just get their boost from training? So, I personally, honestly, like I view them on the bottom end of the tier list. I'm not too sure what you're thinking.
C class.
Okay, I can agree. I'm with that. Like I don't like them. Speaking of characters we don't like and also don't know on my end, Adon. He looks stupid from his picture personally. So that's an immediate D for me.
You're doing my man dirty.
That's a D for me, but I also don't know this character, so I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one, and whatever rank you decide to give him, I will sign off on.
So, okay. First off, there are a lot of characters in this series, clearly, and then they're going to run out of fighting styles super quick. So they're going to have to start copying characters, right? So this is another, like, you have Sagat, and then he now has like a pupil, which is Adon, right? So they both do Muay Thai, right? So I'm cool with that. And he's a little bit quicker. He's not as strong. He's got, slightly different moves, whatever. He's small. It's just one of those characters where it's like you have Sagat. So why play as him?
Yeah, well, Sagat has personality at least. I don't, like I said, I don't know much about him, but there's nothing that's like telling me, oh, I should play this character. I'm like, what is this? What am I looking at? So you could pick his rating, but I'm looking for the hard sell on here from you. You got to sell it to me, unfortunately. Like if it was up to me and I was doing this alone, he would get a D or never heard of. Like that's kind of where I'm sitting on with him.
See, that's so harsh. It's so harsh. The cool thing for me with his character is the lore. I have to go to the lore between. So when I'm looking at ranking these characters, I'm looking at their playability, their impact, and the lore, right? And he had a huge role in Street Fighter Alpha, and for me, that kind of keeps him out of that joke character status a little bit. So
Where would you put him?
see,
All right, I will sign off on that. A character at least I've heard of Adon. I could say I've heard of him. Birdie, never heard of. Don't even know who he is.
oh yeah, you've not played Street Fighter. Birdie's cool as hell, man.
If he's cool, he looks like he could be a badass, but like I've never seen him in like the Street Fighter games, I feel like.
Really?
Was he
He's
in
a-
Street Fighter 5?
I think they had him as a playable character in Street Fighter Five. He's also in Street Fighter Alpha, so he's your typical gangster guy, gangster punk guy.
Oh, he's a big dude.
He is huge, exactly.
He's
And
an obese British rocker who fights using chains.
is that what it says? Is that what the Google tells us?
Yes.
Interesting.
All right. Yeah, honestly, just because of that description alone, he's an A.
Oh man, listen. I feel like as a black guy with a mohawk, that gives him all the personality I need. But honestly, so if I look at him as a character, he's right there C class with Adon and DJ and T Hawk and all those guys. But
Yeah, I'm
not
kind
for any
of
particular
reading
reason other
through
than
him,
just his
and like
character.
it's not helping. So I will definitely be like, yeah. He's kind of like they say he's kind of like he's violent, he's short tempered, and like I'm like, so he's the Incredible Hulk.
He's basically like the Incredible Hulk. Yes, exactly.
And now we move on to Nash, Pluto Nash, Steve Nash.
So again, going back to I mean, in my opinion, Street Fighter Alpha kind of had a ton of characters that they more fleshed out that interaction, right? And Nash is another one. So looking at the core characters, you've got Guile and everybody else. Nash is one of those ones where it's like you have a similar style of play while being slightly different. He uses one hand instead of two, that type deal. I like him as a character.
Yeah, I think Nash is a cool character. Like I actually do know who this one is. Like he is a very awesome character. His first appearance was Street Fighter Alpha. I don't know how much I do like him though. Like I would honestly I could give him a B, I feel like, but I don't know how much higher I'd want to go.
I actually liked him better than Guile.
You liked him better than Guile.
Yeah.
Well, you are the aficionado, and we could say he goes right next to Guile, right above him.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I can see that. I'd be a-okay with that.
And now let's talk about Eagle.
This is one of those characters I did not care to research as much.
He's
I
a bouncer.
don't know.
That's all he is. He's a bouncer.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
See.
honestly, that's more generous than I was about to say.
and the only reason is I actually did like the fight with him.
Okay.
Like he's a cool fighting character.
Maki, she's a clone of another fighting game character.
She is, which we will talk about at a later time. But I do like Maki.
I
do
like the
Maki.
character she's based off of. Honestly, Maki's not. It's not horrible. She's not horrible for me. Like, but that does hinder it for me though a little bit. That she's a knockoff of another fighting game character who I personally think is better.
Well, so
Or is
if
she the
you
same
look-
person?
well, no, she's a crossover character. So she was in
Yeah.
Final Fight,
Yeah, that's
and
who I'm thinking of. So I liked her in Final Fight. I gotta say she's great in that.
yes. So she is great in Final Fight, and coming back in Alpha, again, her playability is just still top notch in my book. She's another great character that kind of has that history, that lore, and all that fun stuff. And I do like that. I do like that she has storyline. She's got essence. She's got again, her playability is great. She comes from another series. So for me, I feel like she's an A class character.
All right, like she's a cool character. That is honestly. We are running a long episode here, so why don't you want to rattle off some characters that you have no feelings for real quick? Let's try to knock off some characters here that we don't need to really talk about.
Well, we can actually go. Let's start with Gen.
Gen.
I he no feelings for Gen.
So D.
He's a D.
Yeah, I was gonna say I just realized we're at 50 minutes. We're barely halfway through, so why don't we rattle off some people?
Holy crap, we might have messed up with picking this long list. We
Yeah.
can have a part two, actually. Matter of fact, what's the series? Maybe we can do a part two.
You want to do a part two? Before we do a part two, though, Necro, get the heck out of here. He's a Quan Chi ripoff from Mortal Kombat. I'm not doing that. If you're still there.
Yeah, no, he's a D.
Yeah, no, he's a D. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to rattle off some Ds here real quick, just so we don't have to, we don't have to talk. We don't have to worry about them too much. But though that I've been looking at him, I'm like, that's such a D right there. Do you have any other D characters that need to get rattled off here?
If I had to throw some other D characters in there, we can throw in Dan. No, Dan's not a D.
I was like, no, Dan.
Dan is S class. Dan is S class
All right.
all the way.
Yeah, he's a fun character.
He's S class. Matter of fact, let's just start with S class characters. So if I'm going down the list, we can go ahead and throw Gil into S class.
Yeah, you know what? I don't like his look, but he has a really cool story to him.
He does. I liked Remy, but I would put him as A class.
Remy is A.
Yep. Dudley is S class in my book.
Oh, he's such a nice gentleman.
I freaking love boxing with Dudley. Rose is A class.
Rose.
Cody is S class.
I don't even see Rose. I'll find her in a minute. Cody, you said was S. I do remember Cody. I do remember Cody. Yeah, I agree with that.
You remember Cody?
I remember
He's
Cody. Here's Rose. You said Rose is A.
Yep, A class. Urian, I would say, is a class.
Who?
You see 12 next to him?
12? 12 by Urian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually love the way they broke this up. We're about to jump into another series right after that.
What, for 12?
Yeah, that's jumping into another series.
Mm-hmm. I gotta remember what he's from.
Awesome.
I remember seeing him.
Ooh. Think back, 12.
I got Google for that.
The shape-shifting mutant.
Where would you put him while I'm typing?
Oh, A class. All day long.
And 11?
Say again?
And 11?
Same.
All right. Personally, for me, I don't know what a Q is. I see Q there, but he doesn't look cool.
He's a cool character. He's one of those slow power characters. He was annoying to play as. I give him a B.
B for Q. Yeah, just trying to rattle off some as well. Guy, I know Guy very well, but I don't think he's like a great character. I'd honestly give him an A.
Yeah, I can agree with A class for Guy.
Guy gets an A. I don't know what an Ingrid is, but she looks like a flight attendant.
I love that. She is another one of those alpha characters. I would give her a C.
C. Junie also looks like a flight attendant.
You and these flight attendants. You must have flown Spirit Airlines.
Apparently.
Yeah. I don't know. I like her, but I didn't like her. She's another alpha character. She can take a C class in my book.
She takes a C class in your book. Let's see here. I'm trying to find some ones that I would actually know. Like Hakan. That's one I remember very fondly. I thought he was such a cool character with a really like joke idea, which I thought made him even cooler in my eyes.
Really?
Yeah, I liked it because it was like honestly, it wasn't a character that was sophisticated. It was just like
He slobbed down in oil.
Yeah, it was a funny character. He was funny for me.
But I will agree with that. I mean, he's a B class in my book.
Oh no, that's exactly where I was going. You read my mind.
Yep.
Sea Viper, I think she's an A. I think she was a cool
I
character.
freaking love her character. She is definitely an A class.
Yeah, I
I
could. I
love
don't even
playing.
have to go in much on that one. I think that's an A.
Yep.
What about Poison? What do you think about Poison?
Uh, nah, she's a B.
She was in Streets of Rage, wasn't she?
I don't remember. I know that she was in Street Fighter 4, 5,
Yeah, 4. I think she was in
might have
4.
been 4. Yeah.
Jury, who was, I think was also around Street Fighter 4.
Yep. She's a B.
Yeah, she was cool. I don't think there's anything else going for her though.
Nah, not too much.
What about Hugo, who's just kind of he reminds me of Birdie a little bit because he's just a big tank.
He's another tank character, another power character. Kind of like a Andre the Giant knockoff, I guess. But again, another one of those OG characters. I did like him. Street Fighter 3 was a great game. I loved him in Street Fighter 3. He's partner of the Poison, so he can sit with her.
Yeah, and that's actually why I remember him. He's a partner of Poison, so that's actually
Yep.
really cool. Who else? Who's someone you want to rattle off that you don't like?
Um, I well, let's talk about Goken. Let's throw Goken up there.
Broken.
S class.
Where did you go, sir? I've been like going all over the place. I lost some of these characters. Weird.
Top line, almost to the end, right before Oni, Rufus, Seth, and
Gokin, here we go.
Oh,
Where are you
Rick.
putting him? S?
S class. Got to throw him up there with his brother. Rufus is a A class character in my book.
Oh, he's such a funny character. Rufus is
I love
great.
Rufus. Who else do we have? Let's go ahead. Let's throw Sean in there as well.
A class?
Uh, I'm conflicted with Sean because he's like Ken's disciple, and he's definitely not S class. But my problem is that you can't beat anybody up with a basketball.
So
He's a
you
B.
want to put him middle of A?
He's a B.
He's a B. Oh my god, he went down.
He went down.
Let's see what else. Ibuki, I thought was a cool character. I thought she was pretty cool.
I did like her character. She's an A.
Yeah. Oni, honestly, I feel like it's a poor man's Akuma.
Uh, yeah, I can kind of see that.
A
He's a
though,
B.
still B. Ooh,
He's a B.
All right, all right. What
Not
about
much. Not much to him.
so? All right, just like with Evil Ryu and Violent Ken, what do you think of Shin Akuma?
He's a better iteration of what those two should have been.
Yeah, I know, right?
He is. It just elevates Akuma to the max. He's an S class character.
I can't disagree with you. It does. Let's talk about a character I have no idea what they're doing here. Joe, Mike, and Lee. Do you know who those are?
Oh my God, Joe, Mike, and Lee. Where are they from? I have to think back.
If
What
you don't
game
know,
is
I'm
that?
adding a I don't know.
You should throw an I don't know. Yeah, throw an I don't know in there because I love Street Fighter, but I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I'm looking at them like, who are these people? You get an I don't. You three are going to I don't know. Like they don't even look like they fit the art style. Like what the heck is a Retsu and a Geki? Do you know them?
Oh, I'm trying to remember what series they came from. They look like they're from the same series.
I'm just gonna put them all there and we'll see what happens.
They're from the first Street Fighter.
They don't look like they fit.
That's probably why.
I'm leaving them at I don't know.
That Street Fighter came before my time.
What are you thinking about? All right, so what about G? We'll stick with a single letter here. What about G? What do you think about him?
I don't know. I didn't really play him as a character either. D.
Okay, I'm with it. He looks like just a fancy buff guy.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not with this character.
Let's see. Who do you want to rattle off? You want to go top or bottom here for rattling off characters?
Let's go ahead and just do this. So Karen is C class. Armika is C class. Rolento is B class. Sakura is A class. Julie is B class. Sodom is B class. Alex is B. Elena. So we mentioned before about characters that have certain styles and some people that do it better. I loved Elena in Street Fighter 4. She
Mhm.
gets an A in my book.
Honestly, I if you said anything lower than an A, I would have drove to you and smacked you.
Yeah, she's a great character, better iteration of that fighting style in my book. So yeah, Makoto, that's a A class. Oro is a C. Yang and Yun, I have to split the brothers up. In my book, Yun gets the A, Yang gets the B.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought I actually preferred Yang a little bit, but like I said, you're the aficionado, so I'm definitely gonna give you a little more. But I actually really did prefer Yang over Yun.
Did you really? I'm just going strictly off playability. I thought that they're just, copies of each other other than playability. So
They are copies of each other, but I don't know why I was drawn to Yang more. But I honestly they could go either way for me.
yeah, I kind of feel like that. Abel, B class.
Honestly, you're not much nicer than I am. I would have gave him a C.
Really?
Yeah.
In that game, he had substance in the game, so I was cool with him.
Alrighty, I'll give you that. He had substance.
Who's next? Your screen is very tiny.
It's tiny. DiCapri.
So looking at other characters. D.
Yeah, she. Okay. Seth.
Seth, I was okay with Seth. C.
I was like, what? El Fuerte.
El Fuerte, love this guy. If you're gonna do a Mexican Spanish character, do it right. He was great. He's an A class.
Thank you. If you said anything else, I again would have came over there and smacked you.
Fang.
Bang.
Ooh, he's tough. He's tough because he's not terrible, but at the same time, he's not like,
He looks cool from his picture, and that alone gives him a B for me.
No, he's definitely not B. He's another one of those like extra side characters. He's a C.
I'll give you a C. Cage.
Yeah. Kage.
Cage.
Kage.
You can't do my boy Johnny Cage like that.
Kage. I'm leaning towards a B.
Okay. B for him. Colin.
God, see, it's like these characters that are just. I like her, but I don't like her. No. I'm also very partial to female characters, though. She can get a C.
Well, you see, all right. So, like, in the beginning of the like, there's a lot of characters that you got me with. Like, we've hit those characters where I'm like, what are you? What are these people? Who are you, and why are you under my rock? You know?
Which is true, but it is they added a lot of characters when they're trying to flesh out their roster. So I think like she from Street Fighter 3, she came back in Street Fighter 5, but that was basically it. And they kind of just they try to flesh out their backstory a little bit. Just
Do something. Like, what the heck's a Laura?
Laura, she's good. I actually like her character. So, but again, I'm pretty partial to female characters. I would say relevance. I'd still say C.
Like, I'm sorry, but like, for me, honestly, like, if you asked me, these characters right here that are left couldn't go any higher than a C, just because, like, they don't get talked about. They're not taking over anything. Like, I don't know. They're like, they just don't do anything for me either.
Well, again, that's Capcom trying to flesh out their roster a lot, and I feel like them fleshing out their roster means adding characters just for the sake of adding characters, and that's them.
That's definitely a problem. So like, what do you give Luke? Like, what is he?
He's a D.
Yeah, like from the look I could tell.
Like you look like a D.
You look like one. What about Nakali?
D.
Abigail?
D.
Like, see, you're just rattling off like what the this is a flake right here. This is literally a flake character.
D.
Lucia?
I like her. She's from Final Fight. She's a B.
I'll give you that one. If she's from at least another game, it's not Capcom just like adding for the sake of adding. Menta.
C.
Zeku.
C.
Akira.
I like her too.
B.
Then again, I'm very partial to female characters. She's a B.
Ed.
C.
Rashid.
C.
That feels like a God. Like I said, like this is the part of the episode where it's like we're rattling them off, but like it really is just Capcom just filling the their padding here.
Well, they do that, but in their effort to kind of like realign the lore, they've been doing better. They've been doing better.
I'm hoping Street Fighter 6, like, they kind of keep the roster like kind of nice, concise, and like, they really flesh out what they got.
Yeah, like Jamie, he's another one. He's just added for the sake of being added. He's a D in my book.
And what about Kimberly?
I think she's one of the new characters. I don't know.
So I don't know. I think JP is one of the new characters too.
From the new Street Fighter 6 that's coming out, right?
Actually, I think all these guys are. I don't know. So we have to wait to see about them.
Yeah. So look at that. So first characters from Street Fighter 1 have no clue who they are, and then characters from Street Fighter 6 have no clue who they are.
Exactly.
Look at
What do you think of our list so far? Is there any changes you would make?
that. Initially, no. I feel like everything's pretty much right where I would rank them as far as like my level of enthusiasm about playing their characters. Um, in fact, you know what? I would take Gil. I'll move Gil down to A. I don't feel as, yeah, I don't feel as lovey-dovey about Gil. I love playing as Dudley and Cody, Goken, Akuma, Shin Akuma. I'm pretty confident with our S class.
I was very upset when you said Dan was in the D tier. I was like, he is such a fun character. Like, they made that is a good joke character in my eyes.
Exactly. That I actually like him as a character. He's freaking hilarious. Everybody else I think is pretty solid.
All right. Well, with that, that is going to wrap up our Street Fighter fan court. Honestly, I am quite happy. I feel like, we put them in a good spot. I think it's a very fair ranking for a lot of these guys. I wish, again, I wish Capcom wouldn't pad their rosters. I feel like that does hurt them in my eyes, which is why they're not my favorite fighting game, but it does hurt, though, to see some of these characters. Because, I'm like, what are you? What is this? Like, what the heck is a Q? Like, you have a fond memory of Q, and I'm willing to give you the B rating because of that. I'm like, what is that?
Again, I just think it comes from, whatever game you came into the series at or what games you played. And if you played, let's say you did Street Fighter 3 or Street Fighter Alpha or whatever, their relevance in that game, in my opinion, is what leads to their ranking. Like we mentioned Laura. I mean, she's okay. I liked her. I mean, because I'm partial to female characters in my book, but she's like Sean's older sister or whatever, introduced in the next Street Fighter game. That's it. Like that's literally it, right?
It really is. Like personally, I played 2, I played 5, and I played some 4, and I'm like, what are some of these other people? Like Eagle was like, he's just a bouncer. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, but again, it's like fan service, maybe
Fan service. I could get fan service.
I like a little bit of fan service every now and then, so I'm okay with that.
Well, why don't you let us know down below in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Hit us up on Twitter. You can follow at Kelderock for me. Ken, I think you need to open a Twitter one of these days to interact.
I should. Actually, I do have one. At Sure You Can.
Oh, yeah, you did say that last time. Make sure you keep in with the discussion, and we will be joining you next time for our next list. I'm not 100% sure where we're going.
I say we should rate Twinkies.
They're all D. They're all D, because it's not a nuclear apocalypse yet. Alrighty, we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.